This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
You know, normally when a big, high-profile criminal trial ends and the defendant is not guilty, you say, "Oh, good, we're done with that. We move on. Let's focus on, World War III." But this Karen Reed case is so different because I'm making a prediction right now. The case was wild. It's been going on for 3 years. The Norfolk County attempted to frame Karen Reed for the murder of a Boston cop. Her first trial ended in a hung jury. Her second trial ended yesterday with essentially a not guilty verdict on all the big counts. They convicted her on drunk driving, which is very strange since there was no breathalyzer at that point, and it was 3.5 years later. But she got 1 year probation. She's done. She's free. She should be free. But now what? I can't get past this. I'm watching this trial. I'm following it closely toward the end, and I'm saying, who killed him? You still have a Boston cop dead in the snow outside the house of another cop, and you're saying, okay, we're not done. This has just begun. I got a lot of people have been tweeting about it, and people are tagging Kash Patel. And I think that's good. We should tag Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They should know what happened here. They should understand that we have an unsolved murder in this case, which means, and lots of people, I mean hundreds of thousands of people paying close attention. And I think we all have the same question. Somebody killed him. Who killed him? We have our theories. God knows Turtle Boy, the world famous journalist at this point, is going to continue to pursue this. He's written 520 blogs on the case. He's got many more to come. So as we sit here, we have to say phase 3 of this case is going to be even wilder than the first two trials, because you have a lot of people involved in this. If indeed it was a cover-up, a frame job, and we believe it was, you got people who covered up. First of all, you have people who killed a Boston cop and left him in the snow, and you have people who covered it up, who conspired to blame Karen Reed. This is going to be the last trial. This trial was big. It captured national attention. TMZ was covering it. All the major networks were there on the scene in Dedham for the verdict. And now they're not going to go away. And now it's incumbent upon the FBI and I guess the state police to investigate, to solve the murder of a Boston cop. And here's what gives me hope, is the people involved are not quality people. They are not savory characters. They will turn. They will cover their own asses. So you're going to get a drama. You're going to get a tabloid, trashy drama like we've never seen in this case, because someone's going down. It wasn't the crime of the century. There was no thought put into this. We believe, Turtle Boy believes, most of the people outside the courthouse yesterday believe there was a fight. It got bad. There was a dog. There was John O'Keefe hit his head on something, and they said, you know what? Karen Reed has had a few drinks. Karen Reed is going to be our patsy. She's going to be the one we blame this on. And they almost pulled it off. Hell, they got people, lots of people, they got legal analysts saying the jury got this wrong. They have local reporters saying the jury got it wrong. Well, I don't think the jury got it wrong. I don't think there was any way they could convict her. There was mountains, there was truckloads of reasonable doubt. So we're done with Karen Reed. She walks, she should walk, good for her. It'll be fascinating to see what she does next as she defends herself in a civil suit from the O'Keefe family, which got a lot weaker with this verdict. But what happens now? What happens to the McAlberts, the McCabe's and the Alberts, as they put the squeeze on them and say, and give immunity to one or two or three to get to the real killer. Somebody killed a Boston cop. They can't, say it was an accident. That's over. The accident theory is over. The intentional murder theory by a woman going 22 miles an hour in reverse is over, as it should be. As we've said many times, there's 10, 12 things a juror could latch onto and say, wow, that's weird. That's odd. All those butt dials, that's strange. The owner of the house didn't come out of the house to check on his fellow cop. That's strange. And right there, you plant the seed of reasonable doubt. So you hoped at least, it didn't happen in the first case. It happened in this case, that every one of the 12 jurors had reason to doubt the case the state, the DA put on here. Good. She's done. Now what? Let's get to phase 2. Let's get all these people under oath yet again and find out who killed Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Yesterday, it took the jury 5 days, 22 hours to reach this verdict. They had questions. Their questions were answered. They gave the prosecution a small bone with this OUI conviction, but I have to say it was good. It was great. I was with all the people cheering outside, but the reading of the jury verdict was one of the worst I think I've ever heard. I prefer the Law and Order scenario where it's nice and clean and crisp, and they say not guilty, and everybody cheers. This jury verdict reading was so lame. It was good. It was good. I'm not complaining. They got it right, but it was just kind of anticlimactic as they try to as the jury foreman and the whatever he is, the bailiff, who's ever calling them out, go through it. It was just kind of lame. Let's listen.
Mr. Foreman, on docket number 2282CR117001, murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you? No. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do all of you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. 002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Of.
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or any lesser included charge? Thank you. Specifically, number 5, operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct?
Yes.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all?
Yes.
003, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar leaving the scene after accident resulting in death? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
Yes.
Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records it. You, upon your oath, say the defendant on 001 is not guilty, on 002 is guilty of operating under the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty. Thank you.
When a lot of the evidence was simple to understand, it wasn't one of those cases, like OJ, where the jurors said they didn't trust DNA evidence, and you say, what? They ripped out the rug, they sold the house, they got rid of the dog, no one knows where the dog is. Those are things just an average schmuck could latch onto and say, wait a second, this dog, where is he? Oh, we don't know. What's his name? Her name? Well, there's some dispute on that too. There's just so much doubt here, and it's so dirty. And interestingly, Karen Reed made a brief statement outside the courtroom. Turtle Boy did too, but nothing from the DA, Morrissey, Meatball Morrissey, as he's better known as, nothing from the prosecution. No press conference saying, we did our best and thanking the jurors. They just disappeared. Shouldn't they spent $4 million for an OUI conviction. Shouldn't they answer to the taxpayers, answer to the people of the Commonwealth? I guess not. Maybe today. Michael Proctor went on whatever it was, Nightline, not Nightline, ABC, Stateline.
Meatball Proctor.
What show was he on? And
that was 2020.
2020, went on 2020. And You're going to see a lot of that because they're all being called, the networks, everybody calling these guys up, calling up the jurors. Jurors are going to speak. The jury foreman, do I have this right, Ironhead, was a black man with a T-shirt and a gold chain.
That's what the reports say.
Good. Because Turtle Boy wished him a happy Juneteenth today. But here's Turtle Boy. If you're not sure who he is, he cracked the case. You know, he's been on it since April 18th, 2023, written over 500 blogs on the case. It wouldn't have happened without this weird Worcester blogger, better known as Turtle Boy. He's a one-man operation, and he does more journalism than the entire staff of the Boston Globe or any of the local TV stations. He was breaking stories every day. They framed her, they set her up, and he caught them. And he's not holding anything back now. Listen to Turtle Boy outside the courtroom yesterday.
And lastly, what would you say to those who feel like John O'Keefe still hasn't received justice?
Well, all of these people here think John O'Keefe hasn't received justice because the people who murdered John O'Keefe are out there. They're the McCabe's and the Alberts, and John O'Keefe went into their home and never came out of it alive, and they threw him on the lawn like trash. So I would hope that all of us can unite at this point, now that Karen Reed has been exonerated, that all of us can unite and demand that the Alberts and the McCabe's and Brian Higgins be held accountable for what they did to John O'Keefe.
Pretty plain, pretty straightforward and simple. They must be held accountable, not for, whatever, drunk driving, for murder of a Boston cop. The thing that I latched on to, talking about the questions you have with this case from the beginning of the first trial, a Boston cop was murdered. A woman was on trial for murdering him, for running him down in an angry outburst and killing him. And no Boston cops showed up. You ever see the courtroom when a cop killer is on trial and the cops believe that the killer killed the cop? The cops show up in huge numbers. They line the courtroom. They show up every day. They never showed up in this case. You know why? Because they knew she didn't do it. And if you talk to any cop, Boston cop, that's the general feeling on the force. I've heard from a few, and they don't believe she did it. If they catch the real killer and put him or her on trial, or put them on trial, you will see Boston cops show up in big numbers. There's the scene outside the courtroom. What a wild, wild drama this was. And the place, the crowd went wild. They had their phones out as soon as they found out it was a not guilty. They just went nuts. It's something we expected in the first trial, but we didn't see. But can't wait for phase 2. It's going to get nuts. Harvey Levin, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Leave your correspondent here in Norfolk County, because it's going to get even crazier. All right, speaking of getting crazy, we got to get to this. I'm just going to say right now, we're going to bomb Iran. I know the debate has been fierce for the last week. I know the president has given no indication one way or the other. He is playing his cards right. I don't think I've ever seen a president in a situation like this, in a very tense situation, appear more relaxed. He did an event where they raised, they put up 2 new flagpoles. They erected them. He didn't want to say the E word, he said. He called it a lifting because he didn't want to use the word erection. They erected 2 new flagpoles, which he paid for. And he just had a great time hanging out with the construction workers, joking around, mocking the media. He was asked yet again, are you going to bomb Iran? Now, I understand why the media is asking that question, and I'm glad they do, because it gives Trump a chance to be Trump. I've never seen a commander-in-chief who appears more relaxed, more comfortable, and is giving away nothing in this case. In fact, we'll get to the Wall Street Journal report, which I believe about the plan to go after Iran's nuclear site. But here's Trump yesterday when asked, what time are we going to attack Iran? I heard the question. I was watching this live and I said, oh, good. I wanted this. I wanted them to ask the dumbest question. It's a obvious question, but Trump was ready for it. Go ahead.
Have you been answered questions about whether you are moving closer or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities? Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's
Well, they want to negotiate now. New York Times is reporting they've asked to come to the White House. How wild would that be to see the Iranian delegation come into the White House, tails between their legs, begging for him to call off the dogs and let them and not blow up the nuclear site built into a mountain. But it feels to me like it's inevitable at this point for a few reasons. First of all, Trump is convinced, he sounds convinced that the nuclear threat is real. We've been hearing about it for 30 years, that it's almost there. We're this close to having a functional nuclear weapon. And Trump has said it over and over again that they cannot have nukes. He sounds convinced, and I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying we've heard it a lot. We should be skeptical. God knows, we heard about WMDs in the past, and they were wrong. In this case, Trump sounds convinced. Again, he may be bluffing. He is in his element when it comes to, he's negotiating to the end, and he's in his element. It's what he does. It's what he loves to do. I feel comfortable with him. I trust him. I think he is he is first and foremost, he knows that he is there to do what's best for the American people. I believe the America First agenda. I believe it's in his heart and soul is what's best for America. It's not George Bush seeking revenge for his father. It's not Joe Biden making money, well, from Ukraine or China. It's not Barack Obama trying to make everything more equitable in the world. It's a guy who is through and through an America First guy who does every move he makes is for this country and what's best for the people in this country. And at this point, he believes Iran is close to having a nuke. I'm not so sure they're that close now after Israel took out half their missile launchers and most of their generals. I think it was a real setback, but the program itself has not been blown up in this war. And if Trump believes it takes one mission, one B-2 flying over their airspace, which is controlled by Israel, and one bunker buster bomb, then he will do it. He will do it because he's convinced that they are close to a nuclear weapon. Here's the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal last night. They write, President Trump told senior aides that he approved of an attack plan for Iran, but was holding off to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. People familiar with the deliberations said in the Middle East, Israel and Iran continued to exchange fire as the conflict entered its seventh day. An Israeli hospital was hit by an Iranian missile. Don't hear much from the UN on that one, do you? Or many in the media. Candace Owen, did she post on that? They hit a hospital in Israel. Israel said it struck 100 targets in Iran, including the heavy water reactor in Iraq and a site in Natanz that is said to be used for nuclear weapons development. So to me, the argument against dropping the bunker buster is Israel is doing great. They're kicking ass. They're taking out real assets. They're killing generals. Trump doesn't like that, though, when they break news about his intentions. To me, this is not a big deal. It says he approved of attack plans. Of course, they're going to give him attack plans. They're going to say, here's what we're going to do. And he's going to say, oh, good. We will do that when I say it is time. And he hasn't said that yet. He posted this morning on Truth Social, the Wall Street Journal has no idea what my thoughts are concerning Iran. He doesn't like that when people think they can read him, like they're playing poker and they can read him. But I'm doing the same thing. I'm watching, I'm listening, and he sounds like he's ready to give the green light. Maybe it's today, tomorrow, maybe there's a deadline, a time, a moment where he says, your last chance, Ayatollah, your last chance to give up, to surrender, to say no more, we'll let you live. Yeah, this is remarkable. This just blows my mind. Here's a scene in New York City yesterday, a protest against the war, which is fine. You want to be against U.S. going into Iran? I understand. I'm with you. But they are supporting Iran in a protest in New York City, waving Iranian flags. They're supporting the world's largest supporter of terror. People who've killed many, many Americans, the people who funded Hamas and Hezbollah, the people who blew up the barracks, in the Marine barracks in Lebanon, killing 241 Marines, who killed thousands of Americans in the war in Iraq. And we have people marching in the streets, waving Iranian flags. I know I don't want it to be illegal, but I would like it to be frowned upon. Americans supporting our enemy, our sworn enemy. I know it's always about Palestine at this point, but they're literally supporting Iran as we prepare to strike. Here's the other thing that has convinced me. Get Harry Enton that Trump is ready to go on this. Harry Enton, the goofy pollster guy from CNN, the second best person they have at CNN behind Scott Jennings, he's got a poll, and this surprise. Usually these polls don't surprise me. It surprises me that CNN aired it, but there is overwhelming support for American involvement, for at least that one mission to take out the nuclear site built into the mountain, and it's not even close. Democrats are on board. Independents, Republicans are overwhelmingly supportive of this. We know Trump cares about polls. He looks at polls. Polls matter to him, and I'm sure he's heard this one. But check it out. People are ready for this. They're supporting this. Go ahead.
Acknowledge, oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
So this is a nuance here, but Trump and Netanyahu both arguing that Iran is close to being capable of making a nuclear weapon. If that is the case, what is the feeling of Americans as to whether the United States should get involved in this conflict?
Right. If you buy Donald Trump's theory of the case, and I think that's important to note, this is polling from April. If Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at this. Overall, you get the slight plurality. I mean, it's within the margin of error, but the slight plurality of Americans actually favor U.S. airstrikes compared to 47% opposing it. Now, here's the other nugget I'll note, right? There's been a lot of talk online and on social media and in podcasts of a divide within the Republican ranks. But here on this question, if Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at that. 69% of Republicans, the clear vast majority of Republicans, favor U.S. airstrikes on Iran, on their nuclear facilities. But there is this substantial minority, 27%, who oppose such an idea. So it's not surprising you're hearing those other voices besides Donald Trump out there. There are plenty of them in the Republican ranks who oppose the U.S. striking Iran if they're trying to make a nuclear weapon. But the clear majority of Republicans.
And you know what? The support builds as you get closer. It gives the people, the war hawks, time to make their case. And before we send that B-2, most people will be convinced that Iran is this close. I'm still skeptical. I lived through it in 2003. I lived through the weapons of mass destruction when Colin Powell stood up there at the UN and said they have weapons of mass destruction. I heard the lies they told Nicole Wallace and the rest of them, George Bush, the lies they told, and I believed them. That's why I am so skeptical, so hesitant. But again, I feel like Trump's motives are pure. I don't think he's doing it, as a friend, as a favor to his friends in the defense industry. I think he supports Israel, but I don't think he's doing it just for Israel. I think he's convinced that the Ayatollah is close to having a nuke. And I think he sees a lot of the intelligence stuff we certainly don't see. So I do agree that if he's convinced they're close to a nuclear weapon, then he's going to give the green light and it's on. But we will see. Who else thinks we should nuke Iran? This was strange. Not attack Iran with a bunker buster, but nuke Iran. Tucker Carlson. Yes. Tucker had this 2-hour interview with Ted Cruz. And if you haven't heard it, I recommend it. It is wild. It is tense. It is combative. I love this stuff. This is, what we used to do on the radio. This was just, it got personal, it got vicious. Tucker is all in on just holding nothing back. He's in D.C. and he's ready to go at these war hawks, these war pigs, but he stepped in it. And we will get to that. If there's one moment in this interview where Tucker kind of exposes himself, it hurts me to say, but I think Ted Cruz won this battle. We will get to that. And Whoopi Goldberg. You know what? I have an answer to the question. The question is, where do these lunatics at the No Kings protest, these crazy gray-haired ladies and these cuck husbands that show up with their no kings and no fascists, where do they get their information? Where do they get educated? I'm now convinced The View. That's what they do every day at 11 a.m. They sit down and watch The View and they believe what Whoopi tells them. This time, though, not even fellow panelists, hosts were like, what did you just say? We'll get to that and more. But first,
Excuse me.
if you've ever searched for your name or address on Google, it's shocking to find out how many results have your personal information. And it's not by chance. Data brokers and other people, search sites collect your personal information, your name, your address, your phone number, financial info, income, and hundreds of other records. They sell it and they share it publicly without your consent. But Incogni is here to put an end to that. You don't have to email anyone, fill out forms, or jump through hoops. Incogni handles the entire process for you. It hunts down these unethical sites and gets your info removed from the places that expose your private information. Incogni also continuously monitors if your data is put back onto these databases, requesting repeated removals. This keeps them off it forever. So you get way fewer spam calls, spam emails, and you get more peace of mind. And best of all, you can cancel at any time. And they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can get it completely risk-free. Right now, you can get 60% off your annual plan by going to incogni.com. Use code Callahan. That's incogni.com/Callahan and use code word Callahan at checkout to get 60% off and protect your data for an entire year. This Tucker Carlson versus Ted Cruz interview was spectacular. I love this stuff. We need more of this, not less, especially what we are talking about going to war with Iran. They owe us at least this. And I'm talking about Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, anybody who is supporting this war, Donald Trump. They owe us answers, explanations before we commit to bombing a country of 90 million people, because we don't know what happens next. Do we want them to topple the regime and depose the Ayatollah? Sure, sounds good. But what happens next? We've had many, many regime change wars. We've deposed many dictators and tyrants. And usually what happens next is worse. And Exhibit A, of course, is Iraq. I was all in. Tucker was all in on the Iraq war. I regret that. I will regret it forever. It was a stupid move. It was a bad decision. I should have opposed it. Ted Cruz says he opposed it. Tucker supported it. They went at it on that. It got personal. Ted called Tucker essentially a Russian apologist. He called him an isolationist, anti-Semite, sort of, kind of. Tucker called Ted Cruz a little stooge of Israel. And they were, at one point, Ted says, could you just stop being so snarky? And Tucker says, you're right. I apologize. That's my problem. And he admits he's a little too snarky and snipey, and he's just taking shots. And Ted, to his credit, sat there for 2 hours and just gave it right back. These are two of the smartest people that, on the public scene here, two of the smartest advocates for their case. But there was a real flaw in Tucker's case yesterday. Tucker just was obsessed with this idea, this notion that Iran is trying to kill Trump. And you know what? He makes a good point. Why don't we know more about this? Why was there not more coverage? We know about Butler, Pennsylvania. We don't know much about Thomas Crooks. We know about West Palm when Ryan Ruth was at the golf course. We don't know enough. Benjamin Netanyahu implied that those were agents of Iran. That's not true. That was ridiculous. But there was a plot backed by Iran to assassinate Donald Trump. I had to go look it up. I had to go read the details. We'll get to them. But Tucker's right. Why was that not a big deal? Why did we not act then? Say, you're trying to kill our president? But Tucker's answer is, let's nuke Tehran. Let's nuke Tehran, if it's true. So in a debate where he's arguing against attacking Iran, he's arguing against getting involved in another foreign Middle East endless war, and he's making a good case. He says, well, if they actually tried to kill Trump, why don't we attack them? Well, they actually tried to kill Trump, and he is completely committed to stopping us bombing Iran. So there's a little contradiction there from Tucker in this wild interview. We'll get to the details of Iran's attempt, feckless as it may have been, to kill Trump. But here's Tucker and Ted going at it.
But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. Yeah. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where's that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has, and the public. I mean, we've had multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Yes. And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline, and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now, we should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
If they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
Then why are we at war with them?
Well, we are trying to.
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're trying to murder
the use of nuclear weapons,
whatever
part of the problem of.
So what do you mean? You don't seem to take the allegations seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
All right, I'm the biggest Tucker fan out there. I love this show. I listen to his podcast, even when I disagree, because he's so committed and he's smart and articulate. This time, he went off the rails. He mocked Ted Cruz for not knowing the population of Iran and for not knowing the exact Bible verse that Ted Cruz referred to the Bible and in defending as Israel and said it's in the Bible, and he didn't know which verse or which book it was in, which is fine. He mocked him for that, and that's fine. Mocked the hell out of him. Tucker didn't know that Iran sent hitmen to kill Trump. And I got to admit, I just heard it in general terms. I heard it when it happened as, yeah, they tried to kill Trump. I don't think the answer is nuking Tehran, but shouldn't we have known more about this? Shouldn't the media have dug a little deeper? You want to know why it just was blown off and people just moved on? Well, hey, it's Iran. And we just assume they want to kill Trump and they want to kill Netanyahu and they want to kill Americans. They say it, death to America. But here's a release from the Justice Department. The date, November 8th, 2024. So this was 3 days after the election. We were a little distracted. This is an actual release from Merrick Garland's Justice Department. And it's got names and ages and dates on the people arrested. And they bury the lead, which is not surprising because Merrick Garland was probably disappointed they didn't pull it off. But the press release is about attempted murder on Trump and others. Here it is. Farhad Shakeri, 51, of Iran, and Carlyle Rivera of Brooklyn, New York, and Jonathan Loldhout of Staten Island were charged today in a criminal complaint in connection with their alleged involvement in a plot to murder a U.S. citizen of Iranian origin in New York. Rivera was arrested in Brooklyn, Loldhout in Staten Island. Shakiri remains at large and believed to be residing in Iran. Rivera and Loldhout made their court appearances in Southern District of New York and were ordered detained pending trial. And you have a long quote from Merrick Garland about the Justice Department charging these individuals. Here is from Merrick Garland, buried in this press release. The charges announced today expose Iran's continued brazen attempts to target U.S. citizens, including President-elect Donald Trump and other government leaders and dissidents who criticize the regime in Tehran. That's Christopher Wray, the corrupt FBI director. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a designated foreign terrorist organization, has been conspiring with criminals and hitmen to target and gun down Americans on U.S. soil, and that won't be tolerated. Thanks to the hard work of the FBI, their deadly schemes were disrupted. We're committed to using the full resources of the FBI to protect our citizens or any other adversary who targets Americans. Okay, one little line, not even an entire sentence, says they targeted Donald Trump, president-elect. I still don't know the details. Nobody does. And we all just assumed, yeah, they're trying to kill Trump. And maybe it does call for a response, a forceful, serious response. But Tucker just said we should nuke them. We should attack them. We should go to war because a couple of guys were picked up in New York. And Cruz makes a good point. He's like, they're not very good at this. These aren't serious threats. That's what his contention was. But if you use Tucker's logic that anybody who targets Americans or targets elected officials, the response to that is war. Well, I would ask, China sends fentanyl into this country purposefully, it's killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Hell, they sent a virus into this country that killed more than 1 million Americans. Should we nuke Beijing? I mean, we should respond. We should call them out. We should understand they're our enemy. But you don't say, we picked up a guy in New York, he wanted to kill the president, let's nuke Tehran. I'm not sure Tucker literally meant let's kill everyone in Tehran because they threatened Trump, but that's what they do. And I will give Trump credit. He didn't come into office on January 20th and say, those are the people that want to kill me. Let's go to war. Let's get them. He understands it's a dangerous world, and he's the number one target for so many bad actors around the world. He's not going to respond to that with nukes or even conventional weapons. We're not going to war. Again, I think Trump's heart is in the right place, and he never even mentions this. Trump talks a lot off the cuff. He doesn't say, those sons of bitches tried to kill me. Let's get them. He could. I would understand it. Tucker is calling for it, but Trump talked about Tucker, and apparently Tucker called him to apologize because of his criticism of Trump. And Tucker comes out and says it. I love him. I want him to succeed. I campaigned for him. I voted for him. But he just doesn't want war right now, which is understandable. Lots of people don't. I don't. Here's Trump talking about his discussion with Tucker.
And it's interesting because I did ask Tucker, I said, well, are you okay with nuclear weapons being in the hands of Iran? And he sort of didn't like that. He didn't want to really, but he sort of didn't like that. And I said, well, if it's okay with you, then you and I do have a difference. But it's really not okay with him. Therefore, you may have to fight, and maybe it'll end, very quickly. But there's no way that you can allow, whether you have to fight or not, you can allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon because the entire world will blow up. I'm not going to let that happen.
Mr. President, you had a bit of a row.
He's right. The entire world is rooting for Israel and the U.S. to take out the Iranian nuclear facility. Saudi Arabia has said, if they get nukes, we're going to nuke up. And the Middle East, nobody's coming to the defense of Iran right now. Their proxies have been devastated. You don't even hear from Hezbollah or Hamas anymore. No one wants them to get nukes. But the question remains, are they really this close to getting nukes? If they are, go for it. We need to know. I mean, and again, if Trump's convinced, I think it's legit. I think it's genuine. If he's convinced, he's not going to do it for any other reason. That's why I feel better today than I did for the last week. All right, before we get to Whoopi, we got to get to Whoopi. I want to do this Tom Homan cut because every day we see the protests. Hell, we see Democrats intentionally getting arrested, trying to protect illegal aliens, trying to stop arrests of illegal alien criminals. We see them surrounding detention centers and calling out ICE for their tactics. And and we hear that Trump's policies are cruel, inhumane. And you think, wait a second, it's cruel to get murderers and rapists and drug dealers and gang members off the street and out of the community? It's just so convoluted, and it's not a winning strategy. I think Trump's policies, I think mass deportation is still popular, even though the media has lied. Democrats lie about it every day. They're snatching up abuelas and farm workers and innocent people. No, they're getting out the criminals and there's collateral. There's collateral people they're grabbing up too, illegal aliens. It's what we want. It's what we voted for. And it's also the opposite of cruel. Cruel was what Joe Biden did. Cruel was letting in the people who murdered Laken Riley and Jocelyn Ungary and Rachel Marin. Cruel is allowing fentanyl to come. Cruel is allowing gang members to take over apartment complexes. What Biden did, what the Democrats did as a matter of policy, that was cruel. What Tom Homan and Donald Trump are doing is the opposite. Listen to Homan talk about his job and what he's seen on the job, and you tell me that he's cruel. Go ahead.
If they knew what I knew, if they wore my shoes for the last, I started in board in 1984. If they wore my shoes for the last 40 years, if they stood in the back of a tractor trailer like I did, surrounded by 19 dead people who baked to death, including a 5-year-old little boy who begged his father not to let him die, but that was the first child to die. When they standing back there and you smell it and you see it and you feel it, when they talk to little girls like I have as young as 9 years old that's been raped multiple times by the members of the cartel, when you get down and talk to that little girl like I did and you see everything innocent and pure. everything innocent and pure within her has been stolen, and she has no faith in humanity anymore. Her life will never be the same. Wear my shoes for 4 decades and see the travesties I've seen. Go to Phoenix, Arizona and run Operation Ice Storm, where smuggling cartels are ripping each other off of the people they smuggle because they're worth a lot of money. And when Alien couldn't afford to pay the smuggling fees, they agreed to $10,000 smuggling fee. They call the relative up, okay, we got your guy here now, got your brother here, you owe us $20,000. They say, no, it's $10,000. Well, guess what? We're going to make it $20,000. If you don't pay it, we'll kill him. And they did. They would call relatives up and put them on the phone and listen to a relative get tortured and slowly killed because they pay the smuggling fees. So I can go on and on and on. Wear my shoes for 40 years, see what I've seen. You can understand my anger when you open up a border. When Joe Biden won the election, 6 months before the election, I wrote an op-ed at FoxNews.com. I said, if Joe Biden becomes president, we lose the border. And what does that mean? More children will die. More women will get raped, more aliens will die, more Americans will die, more public safety threats will cross the border, more fentanyl is going to get in the country. I call it because I've seen it for 4 decades. So when people will say, well, you're angry, why are you so emotional? Because you don't know what I know.
Yeah. Tell that to George Stephanopoulos or Anna Navarro, these people lying, saying how cruel it is and how they're just innocent. They're members of our community. Anna Navarro said yesterday that we need them to work on dairy farms and milk cows. You're talking about a 5-year-old kid baking in the back of a tractor-trailer truck, 9-year-old girls being raped repeatedly, murders, drugs, fentanyl. This is the opposite of cruelty. This is a country protecting its borders, protecting its people, which is its number one job. That's what a country is supposed to do, protect its citizens. And that's what Holman is doing. And Democrats who are lying about him, fighting him at every turn, they're the cruel ones. They're disgusting. They're reprehensible. God bless Holman. God bless the heroes of ICE out there doing God's work. All right, let's get to, speaking of morons in the mainstream media, yes, the voice of a generation. That's what Whoopi is. The generation, of course, is women over 70. This is where they get their news. This is where they learn. And most of it's fake news, but this is where they learn, how Trump's a tyrant and a dictator and how Holman is cruel and how life in Iran is better. Let me get this straight. Life in Iran is better for women. Women have it better in Iran than black people do in the United States. I'm pretty sure that's the proclamation this moron is making. But let's listen.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is
they used to just keep hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit into Iran.
I'm sorry.
No, I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes, it is up to them. And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good. Whoever does it, it's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys,
not if you're black. That person makes millions to sit there for an hour and just spew this idiocy. So it's not better to live in America than Iran if you're black. What? Well, and she compares the other lady there, Alyssa Farah, who has Iranian descent. She's Iranian American. Points out you can't show your hair or your arms or you'll get beaten. If you're gay, you'll get killed. I just looked it up. There's been 343 executions in Iran, country of 90 million, in the first 4 months this year, most of them for drug offenses. So they're executing people who get caught with drugs in that country. And Whoopi says that's better than it is here. And her examples are, you get dragged behind a truck if you're black. I looked it up. That was, 30 years ago, James Byrd in Texas. The guys who did it, I believe 2 of them were executed for killing him. They weren't the government, you moron. The government does it in Iran. Crazy lunatics, criminals do it in the U.S., and they don't do it very often. Black people getting lynched? When's the last time that happened, lady? That is, I know we mock them a lot and play their clip. That's the dumbest thing ever said on network TV. And no surprises by Whoopi. And the crowd cheers. They cheer for her. What she says, it is not better. Life in the U.S. is not better than life in Iran. Truly remarkable. All right, before we go, I'm going to let you decide. Ironhead, I threw this out on Twitter and asked who. Oh, first of all, Turtle Boy admitted finally that there is a movie in the works about the Karen Reed case. I talked about this, I don't know, a year ago when a Hollywood guy I know, kind of a big guy, big deal. He's got a show now. He's produced and directed a number of shows. Called me and said, "You have Turtle Boy's number. I want to make the movie." And then he found out that Mark Wahlberg, I think Matt Damon, there's a few others that already called him, and he said, "I'm out. I can't compete with Mark Wahlberg." We don't know who is going to be directing or starring in the movie yet, but there is a movie and Turtle Boy's involved, which is great. Who plays Turtle Boy? I said Ed Norton. I love Ed Norton. He's a great actor. Who plays Turtle Boy? Sandra Bullock has been nominated to play Karen Reed, but
a lot of people say Robert Downey Jr. will play Jackson.
That's a good one. Get the little beard going. I stand corrected. I initially said Ed Norton. Some people said Ben Foster, who plays a good crazy guy in Turtle Boy's Crazy. But I think it has to be Jeremy Renner. I think it has to be. He just looks like him. He can play a good crazy man. And what you have to do is capture the obsession, the relentless obsession Turtle Boy has with the story. So I'm going to say, Ed Norton would be good. I think Jeremy Renner would be even better. Sam Rockwell, another guy who could play crazy. He would be good too. But
he's so good.
They're going to have to make this movie, and they're going to have to explain who killed him. So I'm not sure if they could do it before the investigation is over and we know for sure who killed him. Again, it can't be that hard to solve. These aren't smart people. They were all bleep-faced. They didn't plan and plot this. This can't be a difficult case to crack. We're done with the frame job. We're done with the setup. Let's get to the real investigation and find the real killer. And let's get to work on that movie. Hopefully Turtle Boy cashes in, but it seems like there'll be a few movies and books. It's that dramatic and sordid and lurid. It is one of those cases which is going to, not quite OJ, but it's going to just lead to so many dramas, movies, books. It's not over yet, but it is over for Karen Reed. She's free. I don't think they're going to try her again. You never know in Norfolk County, but I don't think
the civil case from the O'Keefes against her that they're going to go to try to get money from her for what? I have no idea, but that's the latest.
Which just got more difficult, much more difficult. Good luck with that. But yeah, there'll be civil cases, and there should be. You know what case you haven't seen? A defamation case against Turtle Boy, who just stood before the cameras and said they did it. They killed him, and they have not sued him for defamation. But hey, who knows? Maybe they will. These aren't the best people. These aren't the smartest people. So it is going to get even crazier. But we will leave it there for today. Thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
Because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security. Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
But these are men.
on trans
and so
issues at another
what we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues with that belief system.
I'd like to turn to
that
General
are
Kane
detrimental
now.
to readiness, and that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so you don't
creates
you don't
complications.